Hello, Internet. All right, so we're just over a week into 2019, and despite not having those flying cars that the movie Blade Runner obviously lied to me about, there are some pretty interesting things coming down the pipe. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to give you guys my top picks on vehicles coming up this year. So before we really get started, there are basically two criteria for this list, and one is that I tried to limit the list to entirely new vehicles, as it'd be pretty boring if I spent my time talking about the 2019 Chrysler 300. Sorry, Chrysler. And two, even though some of my picks may officially show up as 2020 models, there's a good chance with the majority of these that you'll be able to pick one up before the end of the fourth quarter of this year. And that's why, after some deliberation, things like the Rivian R1T that aren't slated to arrive until the end of next year didn't make the list. And with the only maybe exception to that being the Corvette C8. As things are so up in the air right now, I figured, what the hell, let's just go ahead and get this one out of the way. As I know, like many of you out there, I'm a mixture of excited to see what kind of crazy things they've been working on for the last few years and what kind of performance they're going to be able to get out of the new car, while at the same time being somewhat anxious about them changing the car as founded and a little scared that when they're done, it may no longer even be a somewhat affordable car. However, we were originally thinking we would get our first look at the new C8 at the Detroit Auto Show starting on January 14th. However, just a few weeks ago, we were informed of a major setback with the C8's wiring harness that's due to set the reveal date back by at least 6 months. So, if all goes according to plan, we should get something official no later than this year's LA Auto Show. However, one guy on an internet forum somewhere said that this is all a fake out and that we really will get the new C8 at the Detroit Auto Show this year. So, we'll see who's telling us the truth pretty soon. And now that I've talked about the C8, let us seamlessly segue into the M8. As BMW first launched the 8 Series in 1989, and the model ran for 10 years, and although BMW did make some updates to the vehicle over its decade of life, one thing they never got around to was giving the car the full M treatment. So, like the denim craze and hearing the name Bill Cosby on television, the 8 Series will also return from the 1990s to replace the attractive but aging 6 Series. And as I mentioned, that return will also come with an M badge. BMW, not surprisingly, has not been very forthcoming about the project, but has stated that the new M8 will come with north of 600 horsepower and will hit the scene sometime this year. However, outside of what BMW has told us, it's a pretty safe bet that the M8 will most likely show up sporting BMW's M version of its all-wheel drive system and a 4.4-liter V8 touting a couple of turbochargers. Also, for those of you who are wondering, the pictures I used for this car first appeared on Instagram via a user named Kishcar and claim to be leaked pictures of the new M8, which may or may not be true, but if they are, shows that BMW is going to keep the styling a little bit more reserved than some of its other M cars. So, another recently announced vehicle that got the hype train going is also a European model returning to North America after an over 20-year absence, and that is the Land Rover Defender. News about the vehicle broke in December of last year when Jaguar Land Rover did something a little odd and began dropping spy shots, air quotes, of heavily camouflaged Defender variants doing Defender stuff in different environments. So, in addition to spying on its own vehicles, Land Rover is expected to launch the new Defender with a range of variants similar to the Jeep Wrangler. We already know about a coupe version and a long wheelbase four-door version, but there's a lot of speculation that when the new Defender arrives, there'll also be a truck variant as well. Expect to find out more in September when the vehicle gets officially announced at the 2019 Frankfurt Motor Show. And next up is a car that many people are saying is Porsche's most important car in quite some years, while maybe simultaneously rubbing its hardcore fans the wrong way. And that is, of course, the Porsche Taycan. And despite it having a spelling that would confuse any native English speaker, it is Taycan and not Taycan, as it might lead you to believe. Porsche even felt it necessary to put out a recent and maybe somewhat condescending video simply pronouncing the name a few times. Anyway, the Taycan is a pretty big departure from the rear-engine coupes that the brand's known for, as the new vehicle will be a sedan, but unlike its older brother, the Panamera will also be entirely electric. However, someone did have the good sense to remind the development team at Porsche that Porsche is a sports brand. So, in addition to coming with a charging port, Porsche is expected to ship with roughly 600 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time of less than 3.5 seconds. Which, for better or for worse, seems to be going over pretty well with the public so far, as pre-orders are up exponentially over other models, with most of the new buyers being people who have never owned a Porsche before. and the brand has even had to make advanced efforts to increase the production of the vehicle, which begins in just a few months, and those pre-orders are going to start getting filled before the end of the year. So, next up is the second BMW to make the list, and that is the 2019 BMW Z4 M40i, which will arrive later this year. The new generation Z4 will return as a more capable car than the cars that it preceded. We know so far that the all-new car will be built at BMW's production plant in Graz, Austria, and will come equipped with a turbocharged 3.0-liter inline-six, making 382 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. We also know that, unfortunately, there won't be a manual offered for the Z4, and that it looks like the only transmission that will be available will be an 8-speed automatic. The new vehicle is slated to arrive in North America later in the year with an estimated base price of just under $65,000. And what 2019 car list wouldn't be complete without the upcoming Toyota Supra, which is just days away from being revealed to the public after a 20-year hiatus. We know so far that the all-new car will be built at BMW's production plant in Graz, Austria, and is thought to come equipped with a turbocharged 3.0-liter inline-six, making 382 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. We also know that, unfortunately, there won't be a manual offered for the new Supra, and that it looks like the only transmission that will be available will be an 8-speed automatic. The new vehicle is slated to arrive in North America later in the year with an estimated base price of just under $65,000. Okay, I understand that there's a few people that make it a little salty about that, but however it's completely factual, I'm still a Toyota fan, and it wouldn't be right to include one without including the other. Okay, so next up on the list is the Cadillac CT5, and it's worth noting that this one barely made the list at all, as GM's top brass have recently axed Cadillac's entire car lineup. But, as far as we know, the new Cadillac sedan that was originally stated to slot just below the CT6 is still in development. And the rumor is that the new vehicle will draw its styling heavily from the 2016 Escala concept pictured here. So, unless there's some upcoming announcement stating that the vehicle will only be sold in China, we should expect to see something official on this car in the coming year. And with it being Cadillac's only car in the lineup, hopefully it'll be a pretty good one. So, we move on, and next is the Ferrari Portofino, which is the only car on the list that technically came out in the later half of last year. However, I'm still excited about it, and most people out there have yet to even see one. The all-new front-engine rear-wheel drive convertible is the successor to the aging Ferrari California, and interestingly enough, this car is easily the most expensive car to make the list, with a base price of some $215,000, while also being Ferrari's least expensive new car. But this new low-priced entry-level hardtop does come equipped with a 3.9-liter dual overhead cam, 32-valve twin-turbo V8 making 591 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque, a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic, and a top speed of 199 miles per hour. And if you haven't noticed yet, much like the movie and video game industry, the auto industry continues in large part to simply bring back old names rather than come up with entirely new projects. However, in sharp contrast to that Blazer we're getting, Ford appears to at least be doing this one right, and I am of course talking about the upcoming Ford Bronco. We know so far that the upcoming Bronco will return true to form, meaning a body-on-frame, rear-wheel drive, capable sports utility vehicle, just as the gods intended. There are even rumors going around about a possible 7-speed manual, but as far as anything official regarding the performance or price, we'll just have to wait until later in the year when Ford makes its official announcement. Though, we do know that Ford plans on launching the new Bronco as a 2020 model, which means that for the first time since 1996, you'll be able to get your hands on one as soon as the fourth quarter of this year. Also, since we're talking about it, Ford also has an upcoming baby Bronco to go along with the return of the real Bronco. However, it didn't make the list for several reasons, the primary one being that as far as we know, it'll essentially be a Ford Escape in Bronco clothing. And last up on the list is the Jaguar I-Pace, as the new I-Pace is Jaguar's first attempt at an all-electric vehicle, and so far has been welcomed to pretty good reviews, receiving a 4 out of 5 from Car and Driver, and a 9.4 out of 10 from the Car Connection. And most would call it a crossover, but I like to think of it as kind of like the X6 or the previous generation Honda Cross Tour that walk that fine line of being a crossover or just being a sort of strangely shaped gigantic car. Either way, while the I-Pace may not be very groundbreaking in terms of range or performance, it'll make up for that with never having to fill up at a gas pump, a premium interior, and weirdness. Oh, and a starting price significantly lower than that of most new Teslas out there. All right, everyone, those are my top picks. If you've got any suggestions on cars that I may have left out, let me know in the comments as I read all of them. Thanks everyone for checking out this video, and I'll see you real soon.